Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jensen with CCJ3701 Research Methods in Criminology. This is a video you want to watch. I promise I'll make it worth your while because I'm going to show you where some files are and some other things in class that'll be really, really helpful to your whole semester success. Okay, so I know you're like, oh, I know how to navigate Canvas. I know where stuff is in the course. It's not that hard. I'm a junior or I'm a senior. It's not my first rodeo. I know how to do this, but I want to show you where you can find things that are going to make life a lot easier and save you time, especially in a required high stakes 4-credit course like this. It's a big deal. So I'm going to show you where you can find a sample paper of the research paper to look at on day 1 of the class. I'm going to show you how the labs work. I'm going to show you where all the assignments are. And again, some helpful tips and tricks that you'll find useful. So I know it's a lot of information. I'm talking a lot. I'm going to navigate through a lot of things. If you need to speed up the time, that's perfectly fine. You can make me go faster. I will not be offended. But this is essential information that you really need. And I tell people it's very obvious to me, students that watch every video, because they are usually the students that get the A's. It's just that simple. So make sure you watch the videos. They're very, very helpful. When you don't watch videos, it's kind of like ditching class. And then you feel a little bit lost and a little bit behind and you're wondering why. It's because there was vital information in the videos. This is the only way that we can kind of get information back and forth to each other is through recorded lectures, office hours, and announcements. That's it. That's how it goes. But again, put me on double speed. Hunker down, watch the video. I'm going to show you stuff that makes life easier. So let's get started. All right, so this is the main course page, Research Methods in Criminology. I know it looks like Miami Dolphin colors, but oh well. Anyway, you go to the start page. This is where you're going to find communication information from me. So these are where the videos are in the course. There's a bio on me if you care to read it. And this is where you will find my phone number if you need to call or text me. Please do not call or text me super late at night or super early in the morning. Use those professional manners that you would use with a coworker or a boss. But that is my number. You can reach me. I don't just sit in a Zoom room all day, maybe like some faculty do during their office hours. I just feel like a fish in a fishbowl and it's weird. So I prefer appointments. So if you can email me or text me a request for an appointment, like, hey, can we do Thursday at 12 during my lunch hour? That would be great. Then we can set that up together. The reason why I like that is it's a little more consistent for my schedule, and it also makes sure that I can put in the right amount of time with each student, because some people have more extensive questions than others, and I don't like other students having to sit around and wait in a waiting room not knowing when they're ever going to see their professor. I'd rather them know that they can sit and talk with me for 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever they need to get all their questions answered. I'm usually in higher demand in the second half of the semester as people start working on those papers and they have lots of questions. So plan accordingly. If you want regular meeting times with me to go through your work or information, make sure we set up those times together. I've had students text me screenshots of their work or ask me a quick question. Hey, I'm going to recode this variable like this. Does this sound right? And I'll say, no, actually, you need to make this change. Oh, thanks. Cool. That answers my question. You're the best. You know, and so sometimes it's just a quick answer, and that's easy to do via text if you want to. Now, that being said, I'm not a 24-hour help desk, so I'm not here at your beck and call, but I do try to be as available as I can. As a reminder, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., which is kind of mid-morning to after lunch, Monday through Friday. I also use that time for advising and to see other students enrolled in other classes. That doesn't take up a ton of my time, so most of my office hours are set aside for you guys because you're the priority. You guys are in the required class. You're trying to graduate, so most of that office hour time goes to you. And yes, there have been times where I've literally spent 20 to 30 hours a week just in office hours with students because we're coding variables together, we're working on data, we're going through editing or doing drafting. I don't mind doing that. I'll build variables with you. I'll run functions with you. I don't mind that at all, but we have to set aside the proper time to do it. So this is how you reach me, email and phone. And again, the syllabus is here for your reference. And then again, just some kind of course goals and learning activities. A few things I want to say here are that almost every week in the semester, you're going to do assignments and labs. This is not just busy work. This is your training for the course. So you're going to learn how to code variables, run chi-square tests, ANOVA t-test, linear regression, binary logistic regression, interpret, build tables. All of this training is what you're going to be doing in your final paper. So it's a skill building lab because you're going to have to actually recode variables on your own without me walking you through step by step how to do it. So use the labs and assignments as ways to build your skills, because once you get comfortable with those skills, you're going to be off to the races. This paper is easy. I got this. This is your training and practice. So again, don't skip the videos. They will walk you through step by step what you need to do, and get the labs and assignments done on time, because we're going to keep building on those skills. This is a very sequential class, and we kind of do a portfolio style of work, doing those paper drafting sections one at a time. Okay, so grades, again, a lot of points out of the total possible grade is the research paper, right? So yes, your lab and your projects and assignments count, and they act as a little bit of a buffer for your final grade, between about a half grade to a full grade extra that can help you with, if you're really close to passing, that maybe can push you over the mark, which is good. But yeah, that research paper is most of your score. So we want you to score as high as you can, and that's why I do the paper drafting and the sections, so that you can turn those in, get feedback, make improvements, tighten it up, and score higher. I'd rather score an A paper rather than a barely passing paper. But yeah, it is high stakes. I get that. But I try to put in every possible support, every video, every resource I possibly can, and really open up my week to office hours so I can help you, because I know how hard this can be. All right, so we're going to go back up to home and jump into the modules. So we'll go to module 1. And inside module 1, you'll see there's a little graphic, which is kind of like a bookmark, so you know you've already been in this module. And you get a little set of tabs. So use these tabs left to right. There's objectives, readings, videos, and assignments. So do these in that order. That's the easiest thing. Again, I've taught around 3,000 students over 12 years, and they agree. Yep, do the readings and the videos first before you do the assignments and labs, because you'll actually get them done faster. I don't always have readings in the readings tab, and sometimes those are just reviews or little summaries that you're going to reference for an assignment. But in the videos tab, this is where all your lecture videos are. And a lot of times these are very fast. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes. You can watch it in parts. All of these videos are available via MediaSite as well as YouTube. So you can watch it in either format. You can watch it at a faster speed if you want to. But the beauty of taking this class online is you can always go back to the videos and watch them again, because maybe you're working on a variable and you forgot how to code it, but we did a similar variable in a lab last week. You can go back into that lab, look at that video and go, oh, okay, I missed a step. That's what I need to do. So you can rewind or fast forward videos and kind of use it as a way to remind yourself the steps that you need to take, right? So that's kind of how you can use the videos. You can pause me, you can, again, move back and forth, you can swear at me, I'll never know. So anyway, assignments and labs, once you get into this tab, this is going to be, towards the end of your learning. Once you get into an assignment, make sure you go all the way into that assignment, because oftentimes I will have more information about how to complete it and maybe some files you need to use in that assignment. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the modules very quickly here, and I'm going to go into module 11 just to show you another example and show you a couple other things that would be helpful. So in this module, you can see we have theory and methodology, right? And so it tells you kind of, you're going to be writing a theory section, you're going to write a methodology section. Here are some readings. I actually give you samples of those sections you can look at before you start writing them. I have a whole list of theories you can review to pick the one you want to use. And these are just little PowerPoints and bullets that you can kind of check out to see which one you like. They wouldn't take very long to look at. And then videos, again, just minutes here, minutes there, so that you can start writing your sections and working on your projects. And then occasionally I'll even kind of deep link some review videos to help walk you through variables and stuff, because sometimes people are still a little bit lost and they go, okay, wait, how did we choose variables and how does that work? So sometimes I bring forward videos from past modules just to use conveniently at this point in time if you can't remember something. But then in the last one, I have paper project 4, right? So this week you actually have 2 paper projects due, okay? But right in here, there's a video about it, and there's a sample section you can look at for this project you have to do. So always go way into the assignment. You don't have to submit yet, but go way into the assignment, see all those instructions, all those files and things that will be helpful to build it. Just as a quick reminder, I do expect you to complete your assignments honestly. Now, that being said, we do have lab partners in this class, and you have classmates, and certainly, you'll have connections with classmates, and you're welcome to call and text each other or email each other and help each other out. So they can help with brainstorming and submissions to check for accuracy, because when you think about it in a lab, if you're both using the same data set, being asked the same questions, you should be getting the same answers. It's kind of like a math class. It's perfectly fine to work in tandem or together on labs, but you do have to submit your own work and have your own attempt, and your attempt is your responsibility. So it's, the good news is you have the buddy system, and sometimes two heads are better than one, but the bad news is maybe you're both wrong and you both miss that. So it can be good and bad. You're not required to work with a lab partner at all. Some people prefer working independently, or maybe they're in another time zone, or their work schedule is not compatible, and that's perfectly fine. But many students, I would say probably 2/3 to 3/4 of students really prefer having a lab partner or a classmate to do some drafting with, or work on the labs together, or compare answers, and that's okay. But again, you have to submit your own work, you have to be honest, and yes, I get students that cheat in this class every semester, and I catch them every semester. I don't like to play gotcha with students. You'll see on every submission you do, you can actually check your drafts of your written assignments through turnitin.com ahead of time. So if you forgot to cite something, or you did too much copy paste, you can actually look and check your originality scores before you submit and fix things if you need to. So that way you don't get into those kinds of dangerous territories, right? So, and yes, I take that very, very seriously, because I want the UF degree to have integrity and merit for all the students and people that have come before you, that have worked so hard for those degrees and did so honestly and fairly. So we all should be Gators, playing by the same rules, right? So I don't like people taking shortcuts. But yeah, so make sure you go into those sections very deeply. I'm going to go into Module 9 for a moment to show you a few other things. So again, in here, this is binary logistic regression. This is your last lab you have. You do about 8 labs over the first 8 weeks of class. And then over here, you can see you actually have a lab and a paper project the same week. So this is a little bit busier week than usual. But again, if you go into that paper project link, we have table templates. You actually have to build statistical tables. And there's some templates in here that you can download to help kind of put your data inside. So you don't have to do as much formatting. Just like I said earlier, I've really tried to come up with every possible support that I can, so that you don't have to waste your time on formatting and moving rows and columns around and shifting lines and boxes everywhere. So again, just make sure you go into those assignments. You'll see those resources available to you. Probably the most important reason to watch this video is the thing I'm going to show you next, which is the very last module, where you will see your final paper submission. It is due April 30th. Okay, and I actually show you a lot of cool stuff. Research teams can do amazing things. You can collect, analyze, publish, and disseminate information on crime, criminal justice, offenders, victims, and justice systems. I think this class is one of the most important classes in the major, because it's a skills class. And you better believe I write amazing recommendation letters after people have completed this class, because I can write about all the cool stuff you know how to do. Okay? So don't be shy if you want to ask for a letter of recommendation. I'm happy to provide one to you, but I need to get to know you so I'm comfortable writing it, or else I'll say, sorry, you might want to ask someone else. Or if I can't write you a good letter, I'm not going to write you a letter. I don't sabotage students. I only write good letters. But think about all the cool stuff I can write about with the things you learn in this class. Statistics and research and writing and drafting and reporting. I mean, just really great stuff. Down here in the final paper tab, you'll actually find a sample research paper that you can go preview or download, which again is super, super helpful when you're getting ready to write this big monster that you've never written before. So I'm actually just going to go download the paper because it's a big file. If you go into the sample research paper, right here, you'll see a finished paper in all its glory, okay? So we'll take a look quickly at this paper. Here's the title page, and there's an abstract. Here's a literature review of the research literature on the topic, a few pages of that with citations. Then you go into a theory section where you give me an explanation of how you think the behavior works that you're trying to explain. And then you have hypotheses where you make predictions about what you think is going to happen when you run your tests. You also make a little diagram that looks like this, that shows me all your variables and the relationships that you're going to do. I often get the question, are we collecting data in this class? No, you are not collecting data. We use secondary data from existing data sets from major research studies that have already been collected via survey and interview, that are nationally representative samples of kids in school, families, neighborhoods, cops, offenders, victims, you name it. We have all kinds of data possibilities for you to use, and you get to select the variables that you want to work with. But yeah, you'll build a little figure that shows us all the kinds of stuff you're going to examine and how all the relationships work. Then you get into a methods section which describes your data set and how they got the data, who funded the study, how it worked, whether it was interviews or surveys. And then we talk about the specific variables you're going to use out of that study and how they're coded and organized, what questions were asked, the kinds of answers provided. And then you start providing me tables of information on your variables you've selected. So these are the kinds of tables you will build. These are descriptive tables that tell me about the topics inside your study. And we do a lot of descriptive tables. There's plenty in here because the reader has to kind of get to know your data and your variables to become familiar with what you're going to analyze. And eventually we get down here, after the method section, we get into results where we see a correlation that was run here. And then later on you see a regression table where we do multivariate analysis. And I know this looks kind of intimidating right now, but you're going to learn how to read these tables and how to build them and what they mean. And then you actually write up a few paragraphs of results telling me about all these little pieces and what they mean and what they tell us in a few paragraphs. And then you write up a discussion that unpacks all these cool things we learned and makes recommendations as to how to use this information productively. Then we write up a conclusion which kind of summarizes the whole study, as well as what to do next, how our hypotheses did, how our theory did, any strengths and weaknesses we need to consider for the future. And then we have our references, and that's it. That's the whole paper. This is a 24-page paper. Most people write a paper between 20 and 25 pages. It's really hard to do this paper in less than 20. It's relatively common to go over 25. That's fine. But that's a whole paper. So right now on day one of the class, you can look at a sample paper. And I was just like you guys, where I had never written a dissertation or a thesis. I need to go see what they look like. How long are these kinds of projects? What kind of chapters do they have? What information do they present? How are they organized? How are they formatted? So I went to the library and I checked out a bunch of dissertations and theses and looked them over so I could get familiar with this great big thing I was going to build. So I like to provide samples of things up front so you can see all this kind of stuff and be able to be prepared for what's coming next. So I'll close that and we'll wrap up a little bit. A few other things I want to show you. When you get ready to do a lab, it's actually built as a quiz, and I don't want that to panic anybody, and several of the assignments are listed this way too. These are untimed quizzes, okay? So essentially, you can start and stop them at any time. Canvas auto-saves your responses, and you can do half one day and half the other day. They're kind of scheduled to take between 30 to 45 minutes. Some of them go a little longer, like 60 minutes. Others we do kind of part one, part two. They might be 90 minutes. So again, you can kind of do them in sections. Some people prefer to just do their lab and get it all done at one time, or you can kind of split it in half into parts. But you're not going to be penalized for time. It shows you how many questions there are, how many points there are. All I see is a final submission and a time date stamp. That's it. So that's all there is. In an in-person class, we would be time limited with being able to get these done by the end of the hour in a lab environment. But online, we can use as much time as we want. You just have to get it done by Sunday night. So if you see these as quizzes, don't panic. You can come in and out of them as much as you'd like. The last thing we'll look at is syllabus, which again is just informational, but it does show you kind of the calendar. So as you can see here, pretty much everything is due on Sunday night. So as a former online student, I recognize that I need the weekend to get things done because I was working full time while I was doing my online classes. And sometimes nights and weekends are all I got to work with. So having Saturday and Sunday available to finish up any work for the week was really helpful. So pretty much everything comes in Sunday night. There are 2 exceptions to that. There's one this week since it's the first week of the term, and then there's one right before spring break where you need to get some assignments submitted before you take off for break. Okay, so those come in on Fridays, but basically everything comes in Sunday night otherwise. Just keep in mind there might be a few weeks where you have 2 things that are due, like a short assignment and maybe a project, or a lab and an assignment. So just pay attention to those dates and deadlines. But again, first day of class, you know your final paper is due on Sunday the 30th. So here's your schedule. And again, you can see we really start working on those paper projects kind of around March. The first 2 months of this class are mostly labs and assignments for the first 8 weeks, and then kind of the last 8 weeks we're doing paper drafting and projects that help you build that final paper. I'll just say it right now, you cannot do this paper overnight. It is a very complex beast, and I've had students try and fail miserably, and they go, okay, see you next semester, Jensen. It's really sad, and I don't like seeing that. Occasionally students don't pass this class on the first attempt, and that's really unfortunate as well. It's really heartbreaking to me. I hate seeing that, but if you find yourself in that situation, I know it's rough, but please meet with me, work on this paper regularly, dedicate the time you need to watch every video and go through everything step by step. It's worth it. But by and large, the vast majority of students get A's and B's in this class. I promise you that. You can even look at the data out there. It shows you that most students do fantastic. But again, be very diligent, very committed to the class. Be very careful. I'll show you one other thing. On pretty much every assignment, I remind students that, again, you need to make sure you're academically honest with your submissions. It's on right here, assignment 2. So you have to represent your own work. Yes, you can, work with lab partners and classmates, but be very good about running your submissions through Turnitin and checking any citations that you missed and stuff, because that is a serious, serious thing. Also, be careful about using social media and group apps like GroupMe or WhatsApp. They're perfectly fine. I don't have anything against them, because to me, they just represent the before and after class chatter that you would have with your classmates. And sometimes you just want to talk to your classmates and ask questions to each other rather than ask the professor. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. The only difference is the apps kind of are always pinging you all the time, and notifications get obnoxious because somebody's panicking about their paper and you realize they're 2 weeks behind and they're not doing very well in the class, and so they're kind of creating drama that you don't need in your life. I've literally had students say this in class. I just turned off the notifications because it gets out of hand. But sometimes, that's a space for you to gather and organize and ask questions. I get that. That's fine. But just make sure you stay really honest and appropriate in those forums. I'm not in them, so there's really not any space for me to supervise, but I have had students send me screenshots of people trying to cheat in the GroupMe app, and then we have to go have other conversations, right? So just be very careful about that kind of communication, making sure everything is really honest and fair, but you're perfectly fine to use those to collaborate and organize. I understand the need to do that. And again, just commit time and appropriate resources to the class. I'm here to help you, and I want you to be successful. Don't be afraid to ask for letters of recommendation and references. In a class like this, I can write amazing letters. So, but again, let's meet in office hours. Let's look at your goals, your resume, your skills, and that way I can feel more comfortable writing you a good reference or a letter. And I write good ones. I've had students get into fantastic law schools in the Ivy League and graduate schools. It wasn't me, it was them, but having a good letter sure does help. So again, welcome to this class. I think it'll be a great experience, and reach out if you have questions. Good luck and welcome to spring 2023.